So we've got a story today about a commission of inquiry that, frankly, is pretty shocking. It centers on a high-ranking official, someone with a decorated 36-year career whose testimony puts her entire legacy on the line. I mean, what happens when the person meant to uphold the rules is accused of turning a blind eye to systematic abuse? Let's get right into the testimony that brought all of this to light.
You know, sometimes it's just one phrase that kicks everything off. And in this case, it was a single, chilling phrase from the witness stand. It's a word that sounds almost beautiful, but what it described was something else entirely. Something deeply disturbing.
So, what is amongelices? Well, the testimony explained that this word, which means angels, was the police chief's special name for a network of female officers he favored. And if you wanted to become one of these angels and, get that promotion, the testimony was clear. You had to play along.
And listen, we're not just talking about some inappropriate relationships here. This went way beyond that. The witness described what she called a systematic abuse of authority. The allegations, they are absolutely staggering. We're talking about claims of him fathering multiple children with subordinates, widespread sexual harassment, coercion, and yes, even rape.
Okay, so the natural question is, who is making these incredibly explosive claims? Well, it's not just anyone. She's someone with a really long and distinguished career, which is what makes her testimony and the situation just so shocking.
Her name is Dr. Mashazi, and she was a real trailblazer. We're talking about the city's very first female city manager. She was the top administrator, the one running the show, with a career in local government that stretched for almost 4 decades.
And just to give you a sense of her career, this was a long time. She joined the organization way back in 1999. She became the city manager in 2016, and they even reappointed her for a second term in 2022. So yeah, she was effectively running the city's entire administration for the better part of a decade.
And right, this is the really crucial point here. She was at the top. She had the ultimate administrative authority. So you can guess what the commission was thinking. The question was obvious. When did you find out about these horrendous acts? And what in the world did you do about it?
And this is where the whole testimony just completely flips. Suddenly, the spotlight wasn't on the police chief anymore. Nope, it swung right around onto the accuser, onto Dr. Mashazi herself. The commissioners, they were not holding back at all.
Think about this. The year was 2016. That's the year Dr. Mashazi admits she first started hearing things, getting verbal reports about the chief's conduct, and not from just anywhere, but directly from the female officers who were being affected. And get this, that's the same year she became city manager.
And you can bet the commissioners jumped all over that date. They absolutely honed in on it. You can almost feel the tension in the room just from reading the transcript. One commissioner says you get to hear this in 2016, reports of such horrendous acts by the chief of police. So they really started grilling her on her response. Okay, so you heard this stuff. What did you do? And her answer was that she created a women's empowerment program. And the commissioner's follow-up question was just dripping with disbelief. He says, and all you do is to create a platform for women to be promoted?
And then, boom, the hammer drops. She admitted that no, her program didn't directly deal with the allegations of rape and abuse. And that's when the commission just laid it out there, with this stunningly blunt conclusion. So basically, you did nothing.
But wait, Dr. Mashazi had her side of the story, and from her perspective, it was a powerful defense. Her argument? She was essentially powerless to act. She said her hands were tied. So let's unpack why she felt that way.
Okay, so her reasoning really boiled down to 4 main things. Number 1, nobody ever filed a formal written complaint. Without that piece of paper, she was stuck. Number 2, she said she was working in a really hostile environment, what she called male chauvinism. Third, the official rules. They required her to get permission from the council just to start an investigation. And here's the kicker, the 4th point. The same politicians she had to get permission from were the ones, she claims, who were protecting the chief.
So you can see the bureaucratic mess she's describing. It was basically a catch-22. To investigate a senior manager like the chief, you absolutely had to have a formal written complaint. That was step 1. But without that complaint, she couldn't write a report to the council. And without that report, the council couldn't vote to give her permission to investigate. So the whole thing was dead in the water before it could even start.
And this one quote from her testimony really sums up her entire defense. She said, I'm trying to illustrate that as an accounting officer, your hands are tied, especially when you are a female. So you see, she wasn't just blaming red tape. She felt the system itself was stacked against her because of her gender.
So really, this is what it all boils down to. We're at the core conflict of the whole testimony. It's a standoff, right? Between two completely different views on what leadership and accountability are supposed to look like.
Let's just lay it out, side by side. On the one hand, you've got Dr. Mashazi's argument. She's saying, look, I knew systemic abuse was happening, but I literally could not act without a formal complaint because of the way the council process works. But then, on the other hand, you have the commission's point of view, and they're saying receiving constant reports about horrendous acts like rape means you have to be proactive. A true leader finds a way to investigate. You don't just sit back and wait for the paperwork.
So, in the end, what we're left with is this incredible paradox. You have the city's first female city manager, who's the one bringing forward these terrible allegations against a powerful police chief, only to have the spotlight turn on her with her own failure to act becoming the main event of the inquiry. It's a lot to unpack. And all of this leaves us with a really tough final question to think about. When a system that's supposed to protect people completely fails, who is ultimately responsible for holding power accountable? Is it the person who follows the rules exactly as they're written, to the letter? Or is it the leader who's expected to break through those barriers and find a way to do what's right no matter what?